Welcome in, everybody. My name is Corey, and you are listening to Bones to Life. On today's episode, I'm joined by my friend Sean McAllister as he tells his testimony about how he met Jesus. Sean's journey started early in life as he grew up Catholic, and he explains all the trials and tribulations of his life that led him down this path. He was always searching for Jesus, as you'll find out, but definitely hit some bumps along the way. This is something I'm sure all of us can relate to in our own ways. So let's listen in with open ears and open hearts as Sean tells us his testimony and shares where it's leading him in his life. I am sitting here with my friend Sean, and he is here to tell his testimony to us today. Sean, what's going on, my friend?
How are you, Corey?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm feeling good about this, and this is something that I've been thinking about for quite a bit right now, and our shared pastor, Pastor Ken, had lit a fire under me to get this project rolling, and he helped me to see that this is something that God stuck into my heart for me to do. So I'm very excited to get the ball rolling on this project, and I'm so happy to have someone like you in here to help me out with the first couple of steps with it. So thank you for joining me here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to open up in prayer to get the ball rolling, and then I want to present the floor to you to tell your story.
Okay.
All right? Let us pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for Sean and his willingness and openness to be with me today and share his story of redemption, his story of how he first got on his path towards you and sought you. And I'm looking forward to hearing him speak on how he is going to continually pursue you. Lord, I ask that you open up his heart and release his anxiety and help him understand that this is just two friends talking. Give him the courage to speak the words and guide him in what you want him to say today. Lord, it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Sean. So now the easy part.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the stage, and you can start from the beginning. When did you first hear a calling to God or first feel a pull to God?
If I'm 100% honest, I feel like it's been happening my whole life. But if I'm going to go back, I have a hard time remembering a lot of my childhood, but I was raised Catholic, and I remember struggling with depression and anxiety as like an adolescent. I was going through my process of being confirmed in the Catholic faith. I remember meeting with the priest, and I don't really remember what I talked about, but I remember being open with him about struggles, and he ended up giving me a Bible that I guess was special to him to like spend time with. I still have the Bible. I never opened it. I never read it. You know, I took the Bible and I went on, and life just kind of continued. And then I really turned away, you know, after I was confirmed, and it was just like a check off the box. After that, God kind of went away. Most of my adolescence was me being angry with God, me rejecting God, me saying I don't believe in God, that he doesn't exist. And, but I was, if I'm honest, I was really angry with him. I don't think I ever really didn't think that he existed, but that was the route I chose. You know, I projected that persona, and life went on. I didn't really think much of God. I tried to build a life or do whatever you do at 18, 19 years old. There was no thought of God. I tried to go to college. I tried to build a life, and it would turn into a disaster, actually. You know, we moved from New York to Pennsylvania when I was 18, and I got into the complete wrong crowd. I tried to have a job, I tried to go to school, and I tried to hang out with my friends, and all I really did was get introduced to drugs and alcohol, and that becomes a big part of my journey with God. And I just wanted to hang out and have a good time with my friends, you know, and that was what I wanted life to be, and it wasn't the case at all. Probably when I was about 19, a girl I was dating became pregnant with who would become my 16-year-old daughter now. And at the same time, my father was very sick growing up my whole life. And he passed away in about 2010. The same time, my girlfriend at the time and I were breaking up. And it was a really, really tumultuous time in my life. Like a lot of emotions, I didn't know how to process them. I didn't know how to deal with them. And, I resorted to drinking and a suicide attempt. I walked out the door with a loaded 45, and I was, prepared to kill myself. And, I didn't have a license to carry the gun. I, had extra, rounds on me, and I went to her house. She wasn't home. And long story short, I passed out drunk and I got arrested the next day. And I ended up going to jail for a long time over it. I spent a little over 2 years in jail, because they were convinced I was going to, kill everybody in the house, kill myself. The fact that I was just going to kill myself wasn't a very good defense. But regardless of that, it was right where I needed to be. And it's like one of the first big jolts that God used to grab a hold of me. I went in there. I knew that I had a problem. I knew there was something wrong with where I was, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I told myself that I would spend that time and devote that time to developing myself in those areas. I purchased the Bible. I spent a lot of time reading the Bible. I almost read it cover to cover, minus like the prophets, because I had no idea what was going on there. Not to mention it was like the King James version, and with nobody to help me understand it, it was tough. It was tough. I read a lot of other literature too, a lot of Eastern mysticism and philosophy and, like spirituality books. And those were easier to digest for me. So I kind of like drifted away from the Bible a little bit and, who the Bible said God was, and explored other avenues of who, people said God was or how they related to the supernatural. And that was the road I walked for a very, very long time. I eventually came home from jail. Life continued on. I landed a job, and, I had an apartment, and life goes on. I was on parole for a long time. Never found a church. Never really, didn't really think I needed a church. God was a me and him relationship. Eventually, I started dating a girl, and she became my son's mother at the time. She got pregnant, and we were engaged, and it was a rough time. We were both drinking. It was an ugly relationship in the beginning, and we both brought baggage to the table that we didn't know how to deal with.
Right.
And still wasn't really pursuing God, wasn't following God, trying to run life on my own. I eventually fell into heavier drug addiction. Like the drinking wasn't bad enough. I got hooked on methamphetamines, and I had a good year run of everyday use of that. And that is a massive, massive part of my story, and how God used that time to reach out to me. During it, by the end of it, I would have been considered like paranoid schizophrenic. I was literally seeing angels and demons everywhere. Like I would walk down the street. Certain people would have like a white light around them. Other people would not. And there was a lot more darkness than there was light in the world. And to this day, I don't know what's real. I don't know what isn't real. But I am fully convinced that like the veil was peeled back, and I had a glimpse into like the spiritual world, and I saw a lot of darkness everywhere. It was scary. I was very,
I can imagine,
very scared. People didn't believe what I saw. I tried to prove it, but how do you prove things that you can't see or explain?
You can't show other people.
Exactly. So again, I eventually just wanted the cycle to stop, and I tried to take my own life again, and I swallowed a bottle of pills, and I didn't die. Obviously, I'm still here. I ended
Thank
up
God.
Yeah, thank God is right. I ended up in the ER for a little while. They eventually sent me to a dual diagnosis psych ward, and that introduced me to certain recovery aspects and 12-step recovery programs, and I started to lean into that. I went to rehab in South Florida, and while I was down there, they talk a lot about a God and would introduce you to the concept of God, but the place I was going to started bringing me to churches. It was church like I never ever experienced. It was a massive auditorium. They had a live band come on, and like I mentioned, I was raised Roman Catholic, so this was like bizarre to me.
Much different environment.
Yeah, this is not church at all. I mean, like it was like a rock concert before church started. And and the pastor would come out and give his sermon. But while I was going, like, God put these pivotal people in my way that just started to like welcome me in. Like, I specifically remember going to this one church, and this little old lady was there, like, and she welcomed me into the seat next to her. And I like, at the time, like, I was still, kind of like not detoxing, but coming out of that weird psychosis I was in from like drug use. I didn't know if she was real or not. Part of me was like, this lady might be an angel. I have no idea. But what I do know is that God put her in my path and welcomed me in, and I sat down and I listened to these songs as they sung about the Lion of Judah and who our God is. And I don't really remember any of the sermons, but I remember like something starting to change in me. I ended up moving locations in rehab and went to another spot in South Florida and got hooked into this other church because, like, I went there. This time I went looking for a church, which was cool. The first time they brought me to church. The second time I went looking, and I got plugged.
That's a big step.
Yes. And then I got plugged right in. Like, I mean, I went there and I started serving. I was welcoming. I was joining their version of like their small groups that they did, taking like spirituality tests and like all these things that are like that our church does now, that were like foreign to me then. But it was laying like the groundwork for where I am now, because it helped me when I walked into Wallenpaupack Pack Church where I go now to like it resembled that.
Yeah.
It was familiar this time, and that's one of the small things that kept me coming back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, one day now I'm walking along the beach, and this is like a pivotal moment for me, and I'm like imagining what it would be like to get baptized. And I'm just, that's what I thought it'd been cool to get baptized in the ocean. Spoiler alert, I did not get baptized in the ocean, but that would have been awesome. But it was on my heart. And then when I went to church that morning, they were doing baptisms. I mean, like, they had a pool set up outside, and like people were just getting dunked. It was like the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I jumped in, man. I gave my life to Jesus. They baptized me. I came up. They handed me a New Believer's Bible with all this like extra, like, it was just a New Testament with like tidbits to help you move through it. And I just started consuming that, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Eventually I came home from that. I moved back to Northeast Pennsylvania, and I got plugged in here. I found a church over in Dixon City that kind of like reminded me of a church down there, and I started going there. But it was like 45 minutes away. It was tough. And then COVID happened. Everything, shut down.
Yeah.
And stopped going. That really like pushed me away. I kind of stopped going on my recovery deal. I eventually started drinking again, and just really isolated hard. And Jesus kind of went on the back burner, and I still didn't really know who he was too. Like, I was exploring him, but I had so much like spiritual baggage to put down, and like so many I guess misconceptions of who God is, who I thought God was and who I learned who God was over the years.
Yeah.
And things to unlearn that I hadn't yet. But eventually I noticed that there was a little tent on 590 as I was driving by, and that was Wallenpaupack Church. They were in this little tent, but I was too good to go to church in a tent. I'm not going to this church in a tent. And somebody told me about them, and but other people told me about them too, and they were nuts. They were like Jesus freaks. And I was like, well, look, I'm cool like with God, but I don't know if I'm like a Jesus freak.
That's such a term, isn't it?
It is. It's funny, yeah.
Honest to God, I remember thinking the same thing when I was younger about certain people. And it's amazing how my view has changed since then.
Yes, exactly. I think like today I'd be like honored if somebody called me a Jesus freak. Yes. I'd be like, all right, like I'm professing my faith, but then not so much. So time goes on a little bit, and I'm watching, and I watch like videos online of them, and I'm like, this pastor's nuts. I'm like, just look at these people. I can't go there, like, And lo and behold, they open a building next door. They renovate the building. And I'm like, okay, now I'll go check it out. You know, I don't know where I'm at on the timeline year-wise, but I finally go and I check it out. And it was, I really don't remember my first experience, but what I do remember is that I walked in and the pastor came up to me after and he wanted to sit down and get a cup of coffee. And I was like, wow, this place is crazy. I'm like, this guy sits down with everybody and you know, has a cup of coffee with them. I'm like, this is nuts. So we sit down, I mean, he's asking me about myself. And at the time I was like super into YouTube videos and like all I did was watch conspiracy theories and like all kinds of crazy spirituality things about like fallen Nephilim and demons and you know, the government's controlled by Satan. Like
Get
I was
yourself down some rabbit holes.
Oh yeah, I love rabbit holes. Let's go down a rabbit hole. And that was what I did. So he's asking me about that and like, and it was just interesting. Like he just cared about where I was at in life and what I did with my free time. And it was, you know, I felt like seen, you know? So I kind of like, that's one of the things that kept me coming back. Not to mention like the music is awesome. We have like we're blessed with like a really awesome like worship team.
Absolutely.
There. And, you know, so I started diving back in. I started going. I don't remember when it happened, but, you know, they had like a Friday night men's group, like a small group that I started going to. And I would say like that is really where like the big transformation happened because I started sitting down with other men that were like really like walking with God. Like these people were like, you know, like spending time in the word. They had a relationship with Jesus. And like, mind you, like I was like baptized now. I'd given my life to Jesus, but like I still like doubt really crept in and I really, really struggled with like who Christ was. Is that really who Jesus is? You know, because like outside of the Bible and outside of like spending time in the word, like there's so many pictures of who Jesus is, so many different versions that people say Jesus is. And that's the Jesus that I understood, you know? And it wasn't until like I really started to like look for myself and see who Jesus says he is. And I started to explore that like in the Bible, you know, I'd look up other scholarly resources. It was really actually YouTube videos, but I made sure that like it wasn't just Joe Schmo, like, you know, like they were like professors and doctors and whatever. And like, and I would digest a lot of their information because that's what I do in my free time. I consume information. Like that's my hobby. If I do something for fun, it's learn things. Whether
It's a great hobby, honestly. It's better than a lot of things that you could be doing.
Yeah, agreed. So I switched gears and instead of going down all these conspiracy theory rabbit holes, you know, and thinking the earth is flat and whatnot, I changed gears and started investing that time into figuring out who Christ is. And surely enough, I mean, like, he started to reveal himself as he does in the Bible, you know, like, and that was, and I didn't just do it like on my own will either. Like I prayed and I asked and I was like, God, please show me who you are. You know, I want to know who you are. I don't want like an imposter God. I don't want to go the wrong route. God, show me who you are. And as I asked him to do that, you know, he kept leading me back to Jesus, kept leading me there. And then I'd ask, all right, well, if this is who you are and if Jesus is who you say he is, please show me that. And as that happened, like things just kept popping up and things just kept coming in my way, like coincidentally, that revealed that truth to me, you know, to the point where like I couldn't doubt it.
Yeah, can we touch on that real quick too? Because you hear so many people who are on the fence or are lukewarm Christians, and they're talking about, well, you know, God's never given me a sign. I've asked him for a sign. I've asked God to do this. I've asked God to do that. Just show me a sign that he's real, that he's there. So I know and I believe, you know, I can see it. And I have something that's right here in the palm of my hands that I can really believe. But how many times does God give us something or show us something, but we don't realize that's God, right?
Yes.
Like there could be the smallest thing that happens in our life where we're looking for something. And it's not, you know, you ask for something, God, I need money. I need to be able to pay my bills. It doesn't mean that God's going to drop a pile of cash on the sidewalk in front of you as you're walking, right? Like he can open up an avenue for you to create that for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so many people don't understand that. So how did you see these things? How did you come to the realization that all these things were happening because of God?
Yeah. Oh, so let me hit the money thing really quick, just because you touched on that. So that's something I pray about all the time. I was buying lottery tickets. I'm like, God, I just need like 10 grand. Just get me out of debt. I just need 10 grand. And then I'd start, I just need to win the cash for life, God. I just need $1,000 a week for life. I don't want $1,000 a day. I'm not being greedy, just 1,000 a week. And I would pray for money. And the funny thing is that as I prayed really, really hard to win this money, what happened was we started doing overtime at work, and then finally it registered, and I was like, wow, all right, God just answered my prayer. I needed money, and he didn't give me money, but he gave me the opportunity to go make money, and mind you, like the foreman of the crew that I'm on hates overtime, doesn't like doing overtime, is content doing 40, going home. And he brought it up. He's like, you guys want to do overtime? And I was like, it was unheard of. Like, you'd have to know him, but working with him for as long as I worked with him, for him to offer overtime is supernatural.
Absolutely.
It had to have been. So I was like, all right. But back to the point of so it's crazy because I can't think of I can think of one specific example, which I'll get to, but it always shows up like I can choose to see it as a coincidence, like, all right, like somebody happened to have said that to me, or I happen to have seen that on TV, or that ad happened to have popped up on Facebook, or I happen to have heard that Bible verse that pointed to exactly what I'm going through. I could chalk it up as the coincidence, or I could view it as a sign. And today I choose to view it as a sign. But like the biggest thing for me was I was sharing about my doubt and like the revelations that God was doing and like the struggles I had with who Jesus was. Like I talked to Pastor Ken about it. I was sharing it at church in my men's group. And this one guy was like, you sound just like Lee Strobel. He's like, did you ever read the book, The Case for Christ? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, you should. So I go and I get it, I order it or whatever, and it comes. And now like I dive into this, man, and I start digesting it. Like I'm tearing it apart. I'm highlighting things. I'm underlining things. And it's just super crazy because every point that he addressed in the book was a doubt that I had, was a skepticism, like a skepticism I had. It was a belief that I'd formerly held that like through time, like was slowly dismantled. And then he just hammered the point home, like that was the nail in the coffin. God was moving in that space and showing me things and revealing to me who Jesus was, but that book finalized it. It was the icing on the cake, man. And then like there it was on display. Like this is who Jesus is. Jesus is who he says he is. And, take it or leave it. And I was finally able to start taking it, like and I don't know, it's just incredible,
Just the doubt left.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can still pick that doubt back up. Don't get it wrong. Like, I can pick it up and be like, is it really? But I have to go back in my mind to the proof that he's already given me, because I'm naturally a skeptic. I'm naturally a doubter. I don't believe, like, that's just like who I am fundamentally, I guess, But if I stop and I look at the proof and I analyze what has happened, like I can't be. I could chalk it up to coincidence, like I said, or I could be like, no, like the evidence is starting to pile up. It has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be a massive turning point for me was that because, and I didn't want it to be Jesus. If I'm 100% honest, like I wanted God to be whatever I want, like I'm cool with reincarnation. Maybe I can come back and like the next life is like some rich dude and like live a great life and have it real nice. I didn't want it to be Jesus.
Yeah.
But the more that I saw God, the more he pointed me to Christ. It was crazy. And then I think after that, like my walk has like exploded exponentially. Like I dove in hard, man. And like if this is who God is, that matters. That's a big deal, man. And like I want to be a part of that. God has done so much for me in my life that like I want to be on board with that. I've proven over and over again that I can't live, like if I live my life on my own will and I try to do things my way, it turns out terrible. Like I just mess it up over and over again. But when I lean into God and I try to do things God's way, and I ask God, show me what you want me to do. Like, what do you want me to be? Um, Things get crazy. Like he just starts to open doors and life becomes easy. And like a massive burden comes off my chest. I'm stuck on right now. Like we had to pick a life verse,
Yeah.
and I went with Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's masterpiece, created anew in Christ Jesus to do the good things that God planned for us long ago. And it's New Living Translation version. But I'm like hung up on that. Like I gotta like God is the artist. He's the potter. I'm the clay. Like, and he's brought me through the fire over and over again, refining me and like peeling these layers away of who I was, turning me into who he wants me to be. And all I got to do is take my hands off the wheel.
Yep.
Jesus, take the wheel, and
it's a beautiful thing. God is so loving that he gave us free will. But hearing you speak on this and thinking about it, I think the most loving thing and the most beautiful thing is when you use that free will to free yourself of your burdens and live for God. Give yourself to God and let him handle it.
Yes. Yeah. And like the more I'm doing that, like I don't know, the better it gets, man. Like I'm just stepping out in faith, and it's not all about me. Like I wanted the walk to just be me and God before. And then the more I like leaned in, the more I realized like it's about community, and like we have a mission, and like we're supposed to walk with other people, and be in relationship. And like I always like coined myself on being like an introvert. It turns out like people tell me I'm an extrovert actually, which is bizarre to me, like, but whatever, I flip flop.
What a surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Who knew? But as I lean out, it just gets better and better, man. Like my walk today is like not every day, but like on a good day, I get up and I spend time in the Word, and like I start my day asking God, show me your will for the day. Like open me up to opportunities that you have, like, and I just want to point to God. Like I just want, like, this is what God's done for me in my life. Like maybe he could do that in yours too. Or rather I know we can, but you just have to let him, and if I could just be honest about that, maybe it helps somebody, or just somebody could relate to like the doubt and be like, you know what, I do doubt, or I have doubted. And like, that's where I'm at now in my walk. Cause I just want people to, like I'm not, I'm not perfect at all, man. Like, but each day, like God makes me anew. His mercies are new every day, man. And, he's slowly transforming me into like whoever it is that he wants me to be. And it's really like no part of my own. Like it's crazy.
It's God's will.
It really is, man. Like walking with Christ it's insane. It's an experience, man.
And where do you see this walk taking you? Do you have anything in mind, or anything that you want to speak on?
So right now I'm walking through like, I don't know what like the official term is, like the LMC process. I guess it's like the process of like becoming a pastor in like the Free Methodist Church. I don't know a lot about it. Like I'm new to all that, but other people have saw in me things that I struggle to see in myself. Like, for example, like my daughter's mother and I, son's mother, sorry, have like, we recently like got back together. It's been like a long estranged, it's been a long 10 years, man. So like, anyway, we finally have come back like together, like trying to rebuild this relationship. And one of the things she asked me before we like moved in this direction was like, are you going to become a pastor? And I was like, why would you even ask me that? Like, what kind of question is that? And it kind of triggered the thought, like, is this where God's calling me to move? And I'm still walking through that process.
Let's talk about doubt with that too. We were talking about doubt before. How many times do you doubt yourself in that? When you heard that question, you think to yourself, really? No, it can't be. Like, walk me through that.
Oh, all the time, man. I was just sharing about it before I got here with with Pastor Ken. I was talking about these doubt. Like, I'm not qualified. I'm not good enough. Like, if I sit down and I read, 1st and 2nd Timothy, like, that's not me. I'm the exact opposite of all that stuff, actually. Like, do you have any idea how broken I am? Like, look at my life. You want me to explain my family dynamic to you? Like, Yeah, I'll show you brokenness. And that's what I've walked in. And
But you're a man of the Bible, right? You read it, right?
yeah.
You know how many broken men God has worked with and
Oh,
worked through, correct?
almost all of them. I was telling somebody else this. So I love that if you go into any hotel room and you open up the drawer, there's a Bible in there. And it's not just any Bible, it's the Gideon Bible. And Gideon's this dude that just hid in the battlefield as all this crazy stuff was going on. He was terrified. He was a coward, and the angel of the Lord came down and told him that he was brave, like I'm paraphrasing, I don't know the exact verses, but and like lifted him up and told him he was all these things, and now that coward's name is on the cover of every Bible in any hotel room, man. Like it's crazy to like think about. I mean, there's tons of other, you could pick up like anybody in the Bible, really, man.
Well, Moses, we're doing a Bible study on Moses right
Okay.
now and his character. And what does he tell God when God approaches him? He said, I pick someone else.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't speak. I don't know what to say. I don't know. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love one of my favorites is Jonah. I love Jonah because he constantly told him that he was going to go, preach to the Ninevites or whatever.
Yeah.
And Jonah's like, nah, I'm not doing it. And sometimes that's how I feel like with the calls. I'm like, nah, I'm not. Look, I'm not. This is not me. I'm not doing it. But the more I resist, like people encourage me in that like position. If I think about it, people are like, no, like this would be a good fit for you. Like this is a good spot for you to move in. And I've known like for a long, like I squandered so many years and I beat myself up over it, like for not going to college and not going, pursuing like a career. I never knew what I wanted to do, man. But like the last several years, I've known that I wanted to work with people. Like people is what I want to do. Like I want to do people. And like, I didn't know if it was like counseling or like drug addiction therapy or whatever the case, because that was like a lot of my experience. But then like these doors started opening up and like now, okay, this is where I'm moving. Like I'm walking down a hallway right now with all these doors that are closed. And as I approach one, the door just opens, and that's like how my life is going right now. Like I'm just walking and doors are opening and I'm just trying to go through them, side story. Backtrack when I was getting involved in the church. So I was praying about it for a while and, like I'm at church, like I want to serve, like I'm not serving yet, I want to get involved and I'm praying and I'm like, God, like I want to serve at church. I want to get involved, but I don't want to pick what I'm going to do. Like I want you to pick, God. So I'm like, all right, like this ain't going to happen, like how's that going to happen? So somebody who worked at the church at the time is like running like this ordeal. Like she contacts me and she's like, she's like, it's been on my heart and I think I would like you to join the prayer team. Like, I think you would be great, like at, like opening us up in prayer. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, hold up. Like, so that I expressed to her, like, like I've been praying about this. Like, this is an answered prayer right now. Like I wanted God to, like, I wanted to serve in church, but I wanted God to pick the role. And now you come up to me and you tell me that this would be a great spot for me to I'm getting the chills thinking about it, man. Like this is one of those moments I'm telling you about that I have to go back to. And like, if I'm ever struggling or if I'm ever doubting this is the way I need to go, I have to hold on to that. Like go back to that. Cause that's one of the moments that he was faithful. Like that was a prayer answered that I can't make up, man. Like it's crazy.
It's beautiful. Is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep thinking about it, with all the self-doubt, we are our biggest critics. And just know that God has faith in you.
Yeah.
I mean, the task was given to you, clearly. So, and everyone else is right. You have all of the gifts needed to pursue this path. I can clearly see it every time you stand up in front of the congregation and say the morning prayer.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm happy that you're on that path.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. It's like nerve-wracking. because I don't know where it's gonna go, man. Look, I wake up at the same time every day. I eat the same food all the time. I make my coffee the same way every day. Like I'm a creature of comfort and I feel safe in my comfort. Like, so to
Yes,
step
sir.
out, yes, yeah, yeah. Like if, I like my structure. So to not know where it's going is scary. I've done the same trade for the last 12 years, love-hate relationship with it, but that's where I've been. I know how that industry moves. I know, but even that, God gave me that, man. That was a gift from God at the same time. Like that industry that I moved in. Like when I came back from Florida, like the industry I work in is ridden with drugs and alcohol. Like it's a tough industry to work in, especially for somebody in recovery. And I was praying about finding work. And somebody I knew from my time in jail reached out to me and was like, hey, he's like, are you looking for work? He's like, because I'm on a crew right now and like they're all clean. Like these guys don't even drink, man. And that's unheard of. And I was like, that's crazy that you just reached out because yes, I am looking for work. And it's just again another one of those moments of his faithfulness.
Yep. You just have to believe it.
Yeah,
You have to believe that it's his hand.
exactly. I could choose it to be coincidence. I could doubt it and I could pick it apart and I could be like, nah, there's no way. Or I could believe, man. And I choose to believe, and and as I've chosen to believe, like it started as head knowledge for me, this whole walk. Like it really was. I consumed lots of head knowledge, hoping that it would hit my heart. And slowly over time it has. Like it's gone from my head to my heart, man. So like my biggest thing I would say is if anyone is doubting or you're struggling with, Jesus and who he is or church and God is just move into space, man. And like ask him to reveal himself to you because that works for me. And he did. And slowly over time I had to keep pushing myself. I had to keep leaning into him. I had to keep choosing him. He's slowly transforming my heart and he's removing that heart of stone and replacing it with a heart of flesh, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's fun to see, man. It really is. Sean never stopped searching for Jesus and trying to come back to him. It's like the story of the prodigal son. It doesn't matter how much you mess up. Jesus will always be there waiting for you. It doesn't matter if you feel like you're not worthy. He will remind you that you are worthy. A huge thank you goes out to Sean for joining me today and sharing his testimony. And a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in and listening. If you have your own testimony to tell and you want to share it here on the show, please reach out to me. BonesToLifePodcast@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram @BonesToLife. God bless.